Hey guys, Lord here, back again with another review, and today we'll be taking a look at the Hasbro Marvel Legends Walgreens exclusive Baron Zemo. Now before we get into it here, let's just take a look-see at both the front and the back of the packaging. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now before we get into the meat and taters of this review, Baron Zemo does come with a few accessories, starting off with the most useless pair of alternate hands I've ever gotten with any Marvel Legends ever. These same old Bucky Cap hands we've seen time and time again with no trigger fingers and the inappropriate hinge. Can someone please explain to me why we got these instead of, oh, I don't know, a mirrored version of what he comes with in the package? A fist for the right side and a horizontal hinge hand for the left side? Why is that so difficult? Somebody please explain that to me, because normally I would cut this part of the review and show you guys the hands in better detail, but this is so ridiculous I decided to omit that from this review, because this is just an example of lack of communication between people who worked on this figure, if anything. If it's not that, it's just straight up ignorance on Hasbro's part. Because they already got the molds, all they gotta do is repaint them like they usually do and give them to us again. Why they didn't do that here, I have no idea. But, fret not, Baron Zemo does come with at least one accessory of note, and that is his trusty sword, so he can do battle with good old Steve Rogers and his fellow Avengers. Against them, not with them. Baron Zemo is a bad guy, unless you're talking about Citizen V, that is. But of all the swords I have that utilize this sculpt, I have to say this is probably the best one. The handle's nice, the hilt is nice, the little pommel on the end is nice, and the blade is nice. So, good job, Hasbro. I'll give you some bonus points for this, because you sure as hell ain't getting them for those alternate hands. That said, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I would like to give a shout out to my good buddy Evil Villain, who was nice enough to hook me up with this figure, a la Dorkside Toys of all places, who actually had this guy for retail price. Granted, their list price was a little bit higher than that of Walgreens, but their shipping costs less. They have, I believe, $4 flat rate shipping like BBTS does, so he wound up being 29 bucks, just like he would have been off Walgreens.com. So, thank you, Dorkside Toys. Thank you, Evil Villain. I will leave a link in the description below to Evil Villain's Instagram, so you can go hit him up, give him a follow, let him know Overlord sent you. But, getting into the meat and taters of this review, let's take a closer look at good old Baron Zemo here, because outside of the absolute shite alternate hand situation, this is by far one of the best Marvel Legends I've picked up in a long time. I've had a ton of fun posing this guy around. He looks absolutely incredible. He's got the pinless arms. He's got pins in the knees, but they're not too gummy, so I'll let that slide. I would, of course, prefer pinless knees because of the overall quality of pinless knees nowadays. It is, as far as I'm concerned, there is no comparison. But this guy is a better example of characters who have pin knees in this line, so I'll let it slide, you know. That said, though, this is the way I imagine Baron Zemo almost all day, every day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, however many days a month, whatever you want to call it. He looked like this in Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, which is by far one of the best Marvel cartoons of all time, outside of anything from the 90s or Spectacular Spider-Man, in my opinion anyways. And this is how he looked. And I really love this look. I like the little fur cuffs on his shoulders. I like the fuzzy boots, which I almost thought were reused from Black Cat, but that obviously can't be because she is a female figure, he is a male figure. He has a little bit bulkier lower legs than she does, but I kind of see the similarities here, but it is what it is. He does reuse the Red Skull Dormammu arms from the Zemo Build-A-Figure wave, albeit with different lower arms. because he did not have the, or they did not have, I should say, these gloves on their lower arms. I don't think Dormammu did. I think he had like the little star shapes on his gloves, and Red Skull's gloves were a lot shorter. That said, his upper torso is also new with this added piece, which I think is glued on because it does feel like PVC. And his head sculpt is also new. It is different from the one we got in the Winter Soldier wave for the Build-A-Figure Mandroid, so that's nice. And the belt is new. I don't know about the mid-torso and waist because I can't see the mid-torso because of his belt here, his WWE WWF Championship belt there. And his crotch looks the same, his legs look the same. I think his boots might be new. And his feet, look at his feet. He has toes. Holy shit, they didn't cut his toes off. I say that because a lot of figures utilized in the Bucky Cap body mold have pigeon toes. He does not. That is much appreciated because he can stand. That said, as far as articulation on this guy goes, he's got a double ball peg in the head. You can look all around. And I'm going to say that double ball pegs are the way of the future, more so than the disc hinge because they look less atrocious. You get a lot more natural movement out of them. They can look up pretty well. You can look down pretty well. They can tilt side to side. You get your attitude. You get your swivel. You get the whole 9 yards with just 2 simple ball pegs. And in my opinion, you can't go wrong with that. And if done correctly, you can get a ton of range out of it. This guy's got a lot of range, but he could have more. Just think about it for a minute. That said, his shoulders do go out to the side. They go back down. They rotate forward and back. He's got a bicep swivel. He's got double joint at the elbow, which gives you plenty of range. It doesn't look too bad. It's got a little bit of that Cliffs of Dover going on, but not too bad. Wrists, at least the ones he comes packaged with anyways, have the swivel, and this one, because it's a good boy, has the hinge up and down, which again begs the question, why, oh why did we not just get this hand mirrored for the other side? Or even just a trigger finger hand for the other side, because all this guy needed was a fist for this side and this hand for this side. And for whatever reason, somebody over at Hasbro didn't talk to somebody else over at Hasbro, and we got the same old Bucky Cap hands we've seen time and time again. It's little things like that that really grind my gears. After you screw up so many times, I stop forgiving you guys. Alright, let's be honest here. That said, the G.I. Joe Classified team not making the same mistakes. We'll talk about that at some point, but they seem to be stepping up their game, while the Marvel team, I don't know, is just getting less and less of my money nowadays. So, you know, it is what it is. As far as the ab crunch goes, it does bend back. It does bend forward. The belt is going to hinder it, and you're probably going to warp that if you keep it posed too long. Now, I can't tell if this belt is glued in the back or the sides or the front here, but it does feel like it is glued and won't shift down all the way. So, you know, it is what it is, but that doesn't bug me too much. Baron Zemo is not a ninja. He doesn't need to pull the Marilyn Manson, so I'm okay with this. That said, super tight hip joints. I appreciate that very much. Do kick forward and back. It kicks about that far forward. Kicks about that far back. As far as in and out goes, he does have good in and out. Look at that. A lot better than a lot of the Bucky Caps we've gotten over the years. I would say on par with Sleepwalker and the new Hobgoblin. Yeah, because he does recycle those legs. Does have a thigh cut there. A little bit loose on the thigh cuts, but not terrible. Double joint at the knee. Gives you good enough range. Kind of hindered by his boot cup and the limitations of the joint itself. It's got a boot rotation, which you guys know me and calf swivels. They are, well, not my friends to say the very least, but since this is a well-hidden joint and this boot cut does not seem to be a separate piece that slides down, I'm okay with this. And then he does have a single hinge in the foot with a rocker joint, really tight rockers and hinges in the ankles there, and peg holes at the bottom of the feet for the display stand he does not come with, but I'm sure you could rig him up with something. It should also be worth noting that his fur cuffs on his shoulders here are connected to the inside of the shoulder joint, like some of the Iron Man and War Machine figures we've gotten. And I'm trying to think who else has shoulder pauldrons like this. Off the top of my head, just the Silver Centurion and the War Machine. But this is the way of the future for shoulder pauldrons and accoutrements like that, so I approve of this. That said, giving him his trusty sword, can hold it pretty well in his hand there. And he looks quite proper like this. And this is most likely how I'll display mine. It is a bummer that I can't put him with that pistol from the previously released Baron Zemo, because that was the game plan, but it is what it is, I suppose. At the very least, I'll just hold on to that figure for now. Or, unless somebody wants to offer me $1 million for it, then you know what? I'll make an exception. But one of the best Legends of the Year otherwise, with the exception of the absolute sheer lack of accessories and the fact that he's got the pinned knees. I'm not going to deduct points for it, but I am going to say I do prefer the pinless knees and elbows on these figures. It's just the quality. Once you feel that quality, you just crave it and you want it all the time, and when you don't get it, it is a bit of a letdown. But with all that being said, this kicks the shit out of the entire Eternals wave and anything coming out of the MCU right now. So there is that. So with that being said, let's now move on and take a look at some size comparisons. First up, here's our new-ish Baron Helmut Zemo next to the previously released Baron Zemo from Hasbro from the Captain America Winter Soldier / Mandroid Build-A-Figure wave. And I gotta tell ya, as much as I liked this figure back when he came out, there is no comparison between the new Baron Zemo we got nowadays. And for shits and giggles, here is the Toy Biz Baron Zemo, who is not the same as Baron Helmut Zemo. He is the Baron Zemo that came before him. And can I just say, Hasbro, if you're listening, can we get an update on him too? Because while that figure ain't bad, he ain't great either. Next up, here he is alongside another classic Captain America villain, the Red Skull from the Zemo Build-A-Figure wave. Again, it is kind of surprising that Baron Zemo doesn't reuse the same legs as good old Red Skull here, but it is what it is, I suppose. Then we also have the Marvel 80th Anniversary Captain America, of course, Baron Zemo, and Red Skull's arch nemesis, who scales quite well with both of these figures, actually. And last but certainly not least, we have our two regulars, the Mythical Agents, Brother Mandibulus, Living Spawn, who as usual towers over everyone. So with that being said, time to wrap things up. Some final thoughts. Overall, and outside of the sheer lack of accessories and the fact that we're still rocking the pinned knees here, again, I don't mind the pinned knees, but they better not be gummy. That said, they do throw the aesthetic off ever so slightly. But with all that being said, I think good old Baron Helmut Zemo here is quite possibly one of the best legends to come out thus far this year. And that says a lot because, as I said in my Ragnarok review from a couple of weeks ago, I don't buy a whole lot of Marvel Legends these days. They're just not doing a whole lot for me. Not like they were back in 2020, which was, in my opinion, a golden era for the line because there wasn't a lot of movie bullshit. But my opinions about the MCU aside, I really dig this figure. And if you're able to get him for retail price, if not maybe just a little bit more, pushing that $30 to $35 mark, which, yeesh, that's steep for one of these, I would highly suggest you try and track this guy down and pick him up. I think he's worth that kind of money. I think he's awesome. He is the version of Baron Zemo I think of when I think of the character, the one from Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, as I mentioned earlier. And I really have no problems with this figure other than a couple of very minute, nitpicky things. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you're so inclined, please don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you know whenever I upload more reviews like this one. And while you're at it, be sure to hit up my good buddy Evil Villain over on Instagram. I'll leave a link in the description below. Head on over there, show him some love, let him know Overlord sent ya. While you're at it, don't forget to hit me up on Instagram at Overlord Productions. But as always, keep the comments civil. The world sucks enough as it is, especially when you can't find badass exclusives like this one. Like, what the actual hell, Walgreens? What is your problem? Until next time, I'll catch you guys later.